Kids vandalized our Halloween display, calculating damages for handmade decorations. Over the weekend, a few houses on our street, including ours, were targeted for vandalism. The culprits were caught on multiple security cameras, and turned out to be a group of 4 12- and 13-year-old boys. They were arrested, but released to their parents that same evening. The families are eager to sweep this under the rug and offer to pay for all of the damages with little argument. For the other neighbors, that's great, but for us, I handmade almost every single decoration, including the furniture they destroyed, and I have no idea how to calculate our monetary damages. I can calculate exactly how much it would cost me to recreate each item. I can calculate exactly how much it would cost me to purchase all of the supplies necessary to recreate each item, and I can calculate how much it would cost to buy a similar item already made. I'm not sure which way to go, or if I should calculate my time spent making these things, or if I should charge for all supplies purchased, or just the amount used. My husband grossly overestimates my skills. He thinks I'm like the Picasso of Halloween decorations, God bless him, and thinks I should charge the cost of supplies purchased, rather than supplies used, and $15 hour for the time it would cost me to recreate everything, which would take weeks. I've been working on our current display for going on 4 years now. Neighbors think I should charge how much it would cost to buy the item already made, which is notably more expensive, even factoring in $15 hour, so I can be restored right now instead of having to make everything again. I'm leaning towards charging only for supplies purchased, because I obviously can't buy just exactly the amount of fabric, paint, etc. I'm going to use. So legal advice, how much do I request for reimbursement? Edit, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, I was just looking for some help. Thank you to everyone for their advice, so please don't send me private messages. Whatever problems you have going on in this sub, I'm not a part of it and I don't want to be a part of it. Relevant comments. Asking for an hourly wage for recreating your decorations is perfectly reasonable. $15 per hour seems like a reasonable amount to request. Do you have a way to accurately calculate how many hours it did and or will take you to recreate or restore everything that was damaged? Another way to calculate the value of your time is to browse a website such as Etsy and look up the price for similar items. If 3 sellers are asking an average of $45 for a similar item you made, then $45 would be a reasonable demand, even if it only costs you $10 to do it yourself. You are certainly entitled to the value of the item, even if that exceeds the amount you spent to create it. Keep in mind that anything you've made and used from years prior would not be new and should not be calculated based on new replacement price. It all boils down to what you feel your time and skills are worth it, and you have multiple ways to calculate this. Don't be afraid to ask for too much, that leaves room for negotiation. If the parents are willing to settle for a higher amount, they certainly can, even if it's more than the amount to which you are legally entitled, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. O.P. Thank you so much. The comment about needing therapy because I don't know how much money to ask for put me off for a second. Thanks for giving me an actual answer. How would I calculate depreciation? Some of the decorations I made 4 years ago, so we put them out every year for about 1 month, so that would be 4 months total use plus storage for 4 years. Does that mean I can only ask for depreciated value even though I can only replace it with something new or newly handmade? Didn't even think of checking Etsy. Good idea. Comment. This is where it gets a little tricky. You need to determine the useful life of each item, subtract the years already used, and determine the value based on the remainder of each item's useful life. As a very basic example, you have a scarecrow that would last 10 years before needing replacement, and you've already had it for 4 years. The scarecrow would have a remaining useful life of 6 years. For a $100 scarecrow, that would mean a depreciated value of $60. You can do some research online to learn more about depreciation and how to calculate these things. But again, don't undersell yourself. You aren't just seeking reimbursement for your actual damages, but for the inconvenience as well. Don't feel you can only request exactly what you lost, and don't be afraid to start with a high number. It leaves room for negotiation, and if the parents opt to pay your first number, even better. Keep in mind you would not be able to file suit for damages after settling, so ensure you cover everything in your estimate. Comment. I am not a lawyer, but I do make handmade items to sell. The general rule of thumb to figure out pricing is materials plus labor plus expenses plus profit equals wholesale x 2 equals retail. Labor is your hourly rate x hours worked, expenses could be gas to get to the store to buy the materials, anything incidental to make the item. You know roughly how much it costs to make the item. Go on Etsy and try to find comparable items. Deduct your cost and labor and you would have a rough figure for the profit. Don't shortchange yourself. If I were in your shoes, I would figure how much it would cost for me to make them, and how much it would cost to purchase handmade items from someone else. I would go with the higher amount and add some money for negotiation as others have said. I would also want the kids to clean up all of the destruction they caused. Good luck. O.P. This is so helpful, thank you. Do you mind me asking what you factor in for labor, like what you charge for an hourly rate for yourself? I don't fully get what an expense is either. I don't usually go out specifically to buy things, I usually pick them up while I'm running errands, plus I order a lot of things online. So I'm not sure what other expenses I would have there. The kids are actually barred from the neighborhood right now, fortunately unfortunately. I don't know if it was done by the police or by the neighborhood. We live in a gated community, but they cannot step foot here for the next 12 months. There's a lot more to the story than what happened this weekend, as well. Our houses were targeted for a reason, and these kids are well known for causing problems in school and around town. It's a shame, because most of their parents are really trying, but whenever these boys get together, all hell breaks loose. None of us wanted to see them in jail, but unfortunately that's probably the only thing that will work at this point. Update 1. My husband, 2, non-crafty and unbiased, friends and I spent a few days going through pictures of the decorations pre-vandalism, pricing all of the materials, and comparing materials plus labor expenses to store-bought pre-made versions found on Etsy in major retailers. My version was almost always cheaper, including labor/expenses, so we went with that for everything. After depreciation for things I didn't make this year, we still got a pretty high number, but we rounded it up and figured it would be a good starting point for negotiation. My husband met with the other parents and residents a few days ago without me. I'm a horrible negotiator and confrontational. I'm not so great at keeping my cool, and surprisingly, they agreed to the rounded up amount with no argument. Yesterday afternoon all 4 boys came with their parents, accompanied by the police officer who handled the vandalism, and the boys apologized, gave us each 4 handwritten apology letters, and then each boy gave us a small Halloween decoration they bought themselves to get us started on rebuilding our displays. It was a really sweet gesture and they seemed genuinely apologetic and like they really understood the seriousness of what they had done. The parents handed us an envelope with the full amount we calculated plus an extra $100, and when we questioned the extra, they said it was for inconvenience. One of the parents also gave us a jar of homemade pumpkin butter and her own apology note. The officer asked us to sign paperwork saying we were fully reimbursed for the damages the boys caused that night, which we did. He's supposed to mail us a copy of the paperwork later this week. After today, the boys aren't allowed in the neighborhood at all for at least a year, but we don't think they will pull anything like this again after all of this anyway. It's been raining off and on all week, so we've had plenty of time to work on new decorations for our display. We finally started putting things out again yesterday. We still have a lot to go and probably won't finish everything before next weekend. Our destroyed display was of 5 years worth of work, but between store-bought replacements, some donations from friends and family, and the things we have done so far, it's looking pretty good. Big thanks to those who commented for helping me figure out how to calculate everything fairly. We were able to resolve this pretty quick and we think fairly for everyone involved thanks to you.